This is a quick display about everything I know in Blender. So this moves your camera. I think there's a way to, I'm not sure. Oof, I'm not professional. How do I show the clicks? Didn't know that existed. Anyway, so you start with a cube, but you can select and press X to delete it. Go up here and add whatever you want. I start with a circle. I haven't, you use G to move it however you want. And you can press this to snap it to any direction, upside down or otherwise. But you do have to check from other angles because sometimes it'll look weird from like a diagonal perspective. And then we press this to go to the camera. I'm not sure what that does. This is a selection, and then these are other forms of selection. The select circle is usually used in edit mode. This is to move something. This is to rotate something. And you can press Command Z, of course, to undo it. This is to scale something. You can press that to scale the white circle to scale, or you can just do this to scale, which is S. Don't always use S because you mess up a dimension you don't want to. So if you're trying to like scale a torso to make it thinner, it's best to just use the normal scale. This is to scale and rotate, but I don't ever use it because the controls can overlap. I think annotating is just like drawing the dimensions you want in case you prefer art. You can stabilize the stroke and stuff. I'm not sure what this does, but I think that measures distance. That makes a surface. And then before we move on, you can press a little tab here on the side, and then it'll show up here to just be a transform. Show the tool options, show the view options. There's also options up here. So you can turn on backface calling, which basically shows if your mesh has a hole in it or something. It also shows like solidify modifiers, which I'll talk about later. You can go up here to this arrow and press on statistics, which shows you how many triangles or vertices you have. This tab is all of the modes you can use, and this is a bunch of stuff that you can play with. If you go to edit mode, these little circles are the vertices, and then these are the edges, and then I don't have any faces here, so I'll have to show that off. You can press Z to change mode, so you can press A to select all the vertices, and then E to extrude it. And then you can press F to connect all of the faces, all of the vertices, and then you'll get a face. So that is a face. And I can Command Z all of that. Be careful because Blender doesn't have an unlimited undo to what I'm aware. I think it's like 5 to 7 actions maybe. And this sets the origin, which is where you import new objects from. And then add cube just adds a cube, of course, to the same object. Inset, and then I don't know too much about this, but I do know a few things. For example, E to extrude something, and then I can press Z or X or Y to put it along a certain axis for the extrusion. I can then press S to scale it, and then you can press Command R to add a new loop cut to something. A loop is basically what connects all the vertices into one. And if you press, for some computers it's Alt, but for mine it's Option, so I press that, and that selects the entire edge loop, so I can scale that down to whatever I like, basically. And then I can press A and then F, and then you can press K. This is a knife. You can basically use it to cut holes in your thing. I don't know how to make it go all the way through though, so for now I only know how to do that. If I go back to here and press Command 1, it adds a subdivide, which basically divides your mesh and then smooths it out. You can get some weird results if you don't have enough. You can basically do the same thing without the smoothing by right-clicking. I have to use 2 fingers to right-click because I'm on a Mac. And then I can press subdivide here, which subdivides it. Let me get rid of that. And basically divides it. So for every edge here, gains a new edge in the middle. And you can control how many you want, but don't add too many because that can cause issues. If I go back here, this, right click again, you'll get some options for the object, some of which are in the object tab. Shade auto smooth, and then you can change that too. It'll shade your object smooth. It's not always the best to put it to max, but it is helpful sometimes. And then I can get rid of that. And then I can shade it back to flat if I want. And then I can talk about some of the modifiers that I use. So array basically copies it, and you can make it copy as many as you like, and then change it to basically be however you want, which is really good for doing stuff like bricks. Bevel bevels the edges of an object. I use this on cubes. And then you can add segments to round it out. So if we apply that, I now have a bunch of vertices and faces that smooth out the object. And then, so I'm not sure what build does. I'm pretty sure that's an animation thing. Decimate removes vertices, but I don't use it from that menu. I'll explain that later. Mirror basically mirrors an object, but we would need an object that isn't actually so. Basically, it mirrors an object, which can be really useful for symmetry. So I could delete 1/2 if it's unsymmetrical, use a mirror modifier if it's set properly, and yeah. You can modify that too. Remesh is another thing in sculpt mode. I don't use it from here. I don't mess with screw either because it looks really weird. You've already seen subdivide, I believe? Yeah. Okay, so for solidify. Solidify is when you want to make something thicker. The way I use it is I go here, press that, press X, press delete faces. So now it's hollow. And now if I want something like a hollow object, I can go back to object mode, add the solidify modifier. So now it's hollow, but it still has thickness to it, so I can treat it as a regular object. And that's basically how that one works. It also just makes things thicker if you want. You can also wireframe something, which is basically take all the vertices and put it along their axes, which I'm not going to mess with because I don't know that one that well. So, deform. The armature deform. I'll talk about that. But I can't use that directly. So if you press Shift and then A, if your keybinds are set right, you can add multiple things, which like an armature. And you can press G to move it up, and place it inside of the object. It has a menu down here. which you can see the names for if you hover over them. If you go to viewport display, you can make it so that is in front. And then we can go to edit mode for the bones themselves, and then extrude that so I can show the full thing. For me, the one that I know is if you press this, shift this, right click. I think I did that wrong. Right click. Oh, hold on. This, Command P, and armature deform with automatic weights. That's the one I use the most for like all of my characters. And then if I want, I can modify it, but that's how it works basically. I'm gonna need more for this. So we go back to edit mode, press Command R a few times so that we have more edges to work with. Hope this translated to the inside. They did not. So now I have more edges to work with, and we can go back. Now, for armatures, they have object mode, edit mode, and pose mode. And then we can do this, which is basically posing something. There are a few things with that you can do. No, hold on. I gotta stop a cat from jumping up. There we go. My thing for that is I go down to edit and I unclick that button, so I can basically swap modes whenever I want to. So that quickly swaps between them without having to go to the menu. And then if you shift click that, go to this drop down and go to weight paint, you can basically see how it controls everything. And depending on the radius, which you can slide up or down or change the weight of, you can change what you want it to move. This is the base of the chain, so it already moves everything. If you go into settings, there's a few that I use, which is I turn front faces off, which is sometimes dangerous because it'll paint all the way through if you combine that with projected view, which basically goes all the way through, paints the whole thing. And then symmetry, I can turn on symmetry. I can also pick auto normalize, which means that it won't auto normalize basically means if one bone is controlling it, none of the other bones are controlling it. It's useful, but when you're doing something like a mouth, turn it off. Otherwise, because there isn't really one muscle moving your mouth, it's a ton of them. So if you want to animate something like a mouth, you're gonna need multiple bones that all share some sort of weight paint with it. Weight painting isn't that scary once you get into it. There's something right here called smooth, so I can basically contract that, and make it so it doesn't have as much as an influence on the other parts of it. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I wasn't planning to show that, but that's a common mistake. So this is the solid, where it's a viewport display. This is a material preview, where you can preview your materials, which I'll show later. Hopefully this doesn't go too long. My storage isn't that great right now. So we can go to the second bone, shift click that, go to weight paint, and then we can smooth that too. But we're not going to be doing that for that because we want this part to not be able to control as much. So we're going to paint that down a bit and go to some other, we could scale down the radius for that. It is based on vertices, so you'll see if you go to wireframe mode that it shows you the vertices that are affected. So now if we move this, it'll have less control over stuff. And then we can finish off fixing this by going to here, pose mode, shift clicking on that, and then making sure that that controls everything above that point of influence. And nothing below it. Whoopsies. Always double check. So now we have that it controls certain things. Some things need more cuts to work better, so you can subdivide it. And now we have like a little thing that we can go ahead and pose. It's not going to be perfect because this is a quick example, but you can now go in and pose it however you like. I can actually go over to one of my files. Always name your files, of course. So we can go to open, search for, and then we can open you. And this is my little chibi, my little feminine chibi, I should say. And you'll see that some of the bones are green. Don't worry, I'll explain that later. But when done properly, you can pose the character however you want. And if you're going to reset a pose, you press A to select everything. Press Option R. It's not going to be perfect because I have a modifier added to the bones of this one. You can also press Option G, so Option R resets rotation, and Option G resets position. So Option R and Option G are different. And if you want to scale it down, you can press Option S to reset the scale. That's how that works. And then I'll explain really quick why the hell the bones on that move differently. So I found this out recently. So the reason why these bones are floppier is because they have a modifier on them called a bone constraint. A dampened track basically adds a sort of level of influence, which means that I can do stuff like wave. If you move it too quick, the bones look like they're detaching, but they won't show up if you try to animate it like that, unless you're moving really, really, really quickly, which I don't recommend doing because you're going to blind people. Rapid fire that to reset its position for both R and G. For that, and I wanted ear bones for some reason, so I did that. But that's how that works. I can show you a comparison real quick. So we can move this arm and move that arm. Don't worry, you can reset these. Do not worry. I can remove the dampened tracks here. And then you'll see that this moves as one piece and doesn't wave anymore. But when you have the dampened track, it does. Waves around a little bit more, I don't know if it's human-like, but it's ragdoll and helps the movements look a little more serious. There are a bunch of other bone constraints that I'm not too familiar with, but that's everything you can know from that. And then I can go back to the old file for this, and I can talk about this stuff. So, for how I got more bones, it's E to extrude, like always. S to scale a bone. For bones, they don't really do that. You need to use the S keybind. And then we can press Shift and then D to duplicate a bone, and you'll see that little line. That is a child-parent relationship line. Basically, the bone that it's connected to will now also move this bone, and if we want to change its parent, we can shift the bone we want to connect, then to the parent we want it to use, and then have it use that parent. And then you'll see to the top of it, it has a new relation. So, but since there's a new bone and it's not in the vertex group, we have to reparent that, which means, yes, we do have to redo all of the painting, which can be a pain. So if you're going to do that, please make sure that you have all of the bones set up first. They're not always going to work, so you will have to do some painting. But basically, since we have that parented to that now, it'll follow the rotation. I can show this a little better by parenting it to this bone. So you'll see, this still moves on its own, this still moves on its own, this still controls everything, but this now controls that bone because it's set to its parent. So that's that's basically all I know about armatures, except you can change the position of the little heads and tails to better suit it. So if you have like an elbow or an arm you want to change, but the connection point of like the joint, like a ball joint doll isn't quite connecting, you can lower or heighten that joint to change it. And now we can delete that and then delete that. That's how armatures work, essentially. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is going to be fun to figure out because I have a crack on my screen, so I have no clue what any of this says. Okay, so let's see. What should I talk about? Oh, curve. Don't know too much about that. I'm trying to figure out... Nope, not shrink wrap. Simple deform. Okay. So, you can use this to twist a model in really interesting ways. So it kind of looks like a skirt right now. I could probably put it on a character. This is the twist one. It'll twist it along the X, Y, or Z axes. So now it basically looks like a candy cane if I apply that. This one kind of makes it look like a skirt. I love that. So, and we can also bend it, so I can make it a little more curved if I want to. That curves it along that. And that curves it along that. So, yeah. I found that it doesn't always do what you expect it to, which is very strange. I can also taper it, but I don't often use taper because it can get really weird. You can also stretch it, which is fun to mess with. But if we're going to go to the one that we liked, so this one, twist. This twists it like a little twist tie. So I can basically make it look like a little skirt if I apply that. Then you'll see it changes the vertices and edges and stuff to match the deform we applied. And the hooks are mostly for fabric. Okay, so there's other ways to deform a mesh, like a lattice. Oh God, where did I? Shift A, lattice. So Shift A to get the lattice itself, and then you position it over the object you want to deform. Then you go to the object, add the modifier lattice, and then press the lattice. What this does is it essentially deforms an object however you like. If I have some footage, I can basically show how it's being used. You can go down to this option right here, this little green thing called data, and you can change how many times your thing is distorted on each level. And then you can go here and move it along those points. You can't, I don't think you can change what it's deforming, it's just based on a grid thing. So this is great for if you have something like a flat object, but you want it to be curved. So I could go over here real quick, remove that modifier, add a new object, like a cube, move that, and then scale that to be like so. Go over here, subdivide it a few times. Then I could go here. I could move this, stretch it a bit more. I could add, Jesus, I got the hiccups. Add the lattice modifier. Just do that, and now I can go over here and move it so I can curve it if I want to. I can basically use this to make a curved object if I want to. It might take a few lattices to get the shape that you want because you might not always be able to do it with one. But that is essentially how it works. In a real example, I'll try to show one now. that is how you would use a lattice. Try to make sure it actually goes on your thing. So you can use it to curve an object or deform it in a way that would have it to be more preferable without having to squish it about. Physics. Okay, so we can talk about physics. We'll use this to have the thing that we want to drop a cloth on. Then we can go Shift A, add a plane object, move it up, and make sure it's centered above the object. And I can show you what happens if we just, but it'll fall through. So, we can go down to the physics tab or use a modifier directly. Wait, that's not the physics tabs. My bad, y'all. And we can add cloth. So, down here, this little bar is the animation playback. So, if we press space, it'll play an animation. And, however, we need to go here and add a collision, and then that makes the cloth fall on whatever we're trying to put it on. You'll notice it doesn't bend around the object. This is what the little shorts that show the quality steps are. You need to subdivide it for it to have a more realistic simulation, so it has more points to bend, like this. Oh no, it's glitching. Something's wrong. We'll discuss how to fix that in a second. I recommend adding a subdivision modifier and pressing Shade Auto Smooth so you get a more shade clean cloth, and subdivide it as much as you want depending on what type of cloth you want to make it. If you don't do it right, the mesh will start eating your cloth. In case you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, because this one doesn't seem to be doing that, cloth simulations don't always want to do what you tell them to. So let's say, for example, I don't actually know how to trigger it. I only really know how to fix it. I think you just... Let's say, for example, oh no, you've got a little hole in your mesh. Okay, I think you need a bigger hole than that. You know what? We're doing this the easy way. Edit mode, Command A, Shift N. This flips the normals and basically flips whatever's going inside. So we can flip these to be on the inside. And now if we go over here, go to Z, and trigger backface culling, you can see it's messed up now. So it'll start eating your mesh. And you don't even have to be doing this intentionally. So, nom 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 nom, your cloth is now a delicious meal. How you fix this is one of two ways. So, basically, for some things, you might have the normals flipped. So, this is the process I go through of fixing it. I go to Object, Apply, I apply the scale, I go over to the Edit mode, I Shift A and Shift N to fix the normals to be back on the outside. I go down and fix any holes that might be in the mesh. So we can repair that damage real quick. Don't move that. And then we can test it again, and you'll see that the problem is fixed. But let's say that's not what your problem is. Let's say you have a cube. You place it here. You want to add a solidify modifier. I'll have to do this in solid. So you increase the thickness. You go down here and you flip the normals because you want something like a cool outline, which is, if you didn't know, you can go down here to materials, and basically you'd create a first material, which will be your base color. So this will be the base color. So we go to materials for that. This will be your base color. And then you can go down here, create another material, and then you can change this to black. You can go down here to backface culling, go to placement and shadow, go back to this, and then offset the material, and you now have an outline around your object because of how it functions. But if you have that above and then you want to drop a cloth on it, but you put the collision below the solidify modifier, you'll find very quickly that's not going to go so well for you if you did something wrong, or it'll phase through completely. So essentially, what you need to do is go here and place that above solidify. That's not quite what I wanted. Let me just apply scale. Always remember to apply scale. So there we go. I had it on backwards. My bad, y'all. So basically, if we have this below this, you'll notice that it's bugging out on the edges. We're using a basic mesh, so it's not that obvious, but it's bugging out on the edges because something is wrong. You have to have collision above solidify so that it will function properly as a normal cloth. So you have to make sure that everything is properly set. You also have to make sure that scale is properly set too, because if you don't, the solidify modifier could get extremely, extremely weird. So now that we basically understand what cloths are, we can move to my favorite thing, or my next favorite thing, because I'm not done with modifiers yet. Don't add too many, they can really lag your thing. So, let's see. Do I know anything else? No, I'm still learning all of that. You can go to object and do this funny thing. It's fuzzy now. How do you feel about it? Your cube is fuzzy now. Okay, so let's go to some quick basic things. So, if you zoom in way too far, you're gonna notice that you can't really zoom back out anymore, except that's not the case. You've just zoomed in really, really close, and now you have to pull away very slowly. Just keep pulling away until you get it, and if you go in too far, just zoom back in, but not too quickly. Okay. Basically, you want to use a combination of this and this to maneuver yourself around the plane. And then we can go to my favorite thing to do. So we're gonna have to, I'm not sure. Okay, so now we can go to sculpt mode. So this is sculpt mode. There's a few things you can do here. Where this one is draw sharp, clay strips, clay thumb, layer, inflate, blob, crease, smooth, flatten, fill, scrape, multi-plane scrape, pinch, grab, elastic deform, and snake hook. So, we don't quite have enough vertices for this, so, really quick, go to this tab here, Remesh, press Fix Poles, press R, and change the size, and then you can press Command R. So, if you're not sure what that just did, essentially, if you go down here, you are now able to grab part of it, and basically you're now able to sculpt it how you want. This is how the snake hook works. It's great for edges of hair where you just want to flick out a little curve. This is more for getting the shape. This is for getting things more accurate. And this is if you have too big of a space between something. You can't really drag it. This one is a thumb. You sort of use it to shift things. And then you'll notice that it only affects that one side, but if you don't want that to be the case, you can press the symmetry, which will move both sides to a certain extent. So we want this one, because if we do that again, you'll notice that it now copied both sides, but it doesn't really affect the middle. So you have to keep that in mind, because you do often want to shape the middle. But if you do that, don't have that on and use a different tool or a different radius. So you can basically use sculpt to deform it however you want, which is how I like to match my hair to whatever outline I'm referencing and stuff like that. You can also use cloth, which makes it look really silly. It doesn't work that great on a cube. This is cut. I use the polyline trim, and I use it to cut out parts of my shape that I don't want anymore. So basically it's like cutting fabric. It goes through the whole mesh. So if you want to cut a corner, you can't do that. You have to go and like do that with a knife or something. However, that's not the only way to cut things out of objects. I forgot to mention something called a boolean. Again, Shift D to duplicate something. Obviously, you can do the normal Command C, Command V to paste. You can generate boolean and then select. Wow, that's interesting. Maybe I have to. Yeah, there we go. So, what this does is I can basically use it to cut my objects, and now I have a chunk taken out of the cube. Isn't that cool? It probably won't function, right? Let me try scale. Interesting. Let's try. Weird. I've never actually tried that before, so that's interesting. Learn something new. Okay. I'll have to get into. Okay. So, really quick, let's make something. Alright, so that is essentially everything I know about meshes that I can remember right now. We can go here and import a reference. So, let me go to my downloads and get a random file. What about Fluttershy? Fluttershy's pretty. Okay, there we go. So, reference. You can't really use this as a mesh, and I don't think it anchors to armatures, but you can use it basically in any mode. This is the wireframe mode. It shows everything as like a wireframe, and you can see through them so that you can model things to the way you like. So that's what a reference image is. When you go to image and use background, I don't really know how that works, but yeah. So for mesh, you can basically, Jesus Christ, oh Lord. Right, you need to be in material preview. Okay, so this is a texture I made. I'll be using it for this example. So this is an image, this is a mesh image, which you can modify. So you can grab the corner and like stretch it, but it's gonna do some weird stuff. You can also subdivide it, move the center, and be really weird with it. You can attach this to armatures. It acts like a normal mesh. It's basically just a mesh, a plane with an image on it. Lighting. Let's see. Okay, everything I know about lighting. Okay. I don't know anything about speakers, and I haven't messed with the camera much, but lighting. So we can go here, rendered, and then we can zoom out, and this is our lighting for the scene. This is basically what you use to light and make perspective on things, which is how I made something like the shine thing, which I won't be covering because I don't remember how to do that. You can change the power. You can choose the fall off, the radius, if it has shadows or not. You can also choose that up here, I think. Yeah, you can choose that up here. So, you can also choose sun. Don't make the sun thing too powerful, because you will blind yourself. So we can try like 3 for sun. 2. Something like that. So, that's how the sun works. I'm not sure how spot and area work, but yeah. Can also choose shadow. We can put that back to point and set the power back up to 1000. So that's how. Can also put the shadow back on. So that's how lighting works. Camera. This is your camera. This is where your images and other stuff will render. You can move it, and you can move it however you want. The thing that I know is depth of field, and you can mess with the size here, which basically is how far it zooms and stuff. Which is fun to mess with when you're animating. So, alright. You can lock the camera too, but I don't usually do that. You can trigger safe areas so that you can like see what could potentially be cut off. So if I trigger safe areas, so this is potentially like that faint outline there is what potentially could be cut off from your scene, depending on where you put it. You can trigger background images, what it will look like in the viewport display, and stuff like that. If you go, I believe, I don't remember quite where it is. Ah, here we go. So world, you can change the background color, but this will tint everything. So if you want a chroma key, be careful with the lighting because it'll change that too. You can change how strong it is. I'm just gonna put that back to what it was before, or at least try to. Okay, so that's everything I know about the camera. So let's see, what else is there? I could cover animation, but I haven't done anything for modeling so far. So, really quick, let's make something. I'm not sure if I'll... Okay, so, circle. We're going to start with a circle. And, so, here we go. I'll do that from the side. Okay. Circle, scale it down. We go to edit mode, we press E, Z to set, back to vertices, S to scale it again. Then we go E, Z, E, Z, S, Command R, 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 S. You can also click and then choose what you want it to be. Let's see. S tapers off at the bottom, so Jesus Christ, I don't know how to fix that. Okay. S and whoopsies, you gotta go to wireframe if you want to select everything there. Okay, then we go A, F, Command 1, apply, Z, scale, Y, up, scale, Y, object mode, shift, go here, press, radius down, symmetry on, up to that area, go up, snake hook, push that in, down, stretch, oof, maybe not that much, okay, side, inflate, once we have a mass, pull, suck that in, pull, pull, oof. Top view, pull, pull, squish, pull, drop, side, stretch. Switch to solid. Add a few rows. Wait, we can just command 1. Apply. Sculpt. Pull. Pull. Pull, pull, pull. Smooth. Is that really how it looks like from the top? Probably not. Alright. Pull, pull, pull. And now we can smooth that. We're on the back face, so we can go here. That's a bit wide. Here. Command R. Draw. Oh, nope. Here we go. Spine in. Y symmetry. Oof. Still don't know why it does that, honestly. Chest out. Okay. Go here. Cut. Command R. Here. Smooth. Here we go. And now we have a torso we can play with. So, if we go here, we can go up here, set origin, origin to geometry. There we go. I prefer making that type of body. Do we have a stomach? Yes, we do. Alright, there we go. You can go here, object, shade auto smooth. So, now we can go and start messing with armatures. Yay! You might be wondering, hey, didn't we already go through this? Yes. But there is one thing I wish to cover in addition to all of that. In front, edit mode. I don't make a whole spine, I just do 2 parts for upper and lower. Okay, so Shift, Command P with automatic groups. Okay. So, oh lord. So, alright, Option R. So, how to do animation. It's simple. Blender sort of has it built in. This button is automatic keying, so we can rotate that. It creates a keyframe down here. If your keys disappear, just scroll up or down and try and find them. So, we can start this as our starting frame, go to 20, and bend it here. Go back to 0, bend it there. Wait, we have to have no things selected, so bend it there. And then as you'll see, boop, we have an animation. So, anything you do while you have this button pricked will be recorded, so be very careful and don't select multiple of these. So, oh my god. Oh, I gotta fix that real quick. Sorry. There we go, that's better. Alright, so we have an animation which you can make all sorts of cool stuff with. So that's all fun and games. One thing that I learned recently and don't really have the memory of, so if we bring back in a plane, this is hooks. I'm showing you how to do a hook, so I gotta turn that off. So, we'll go here, 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 here. You've seen me do this. Yeah, I'm just setting up the cloth and then going here. Subdivide. You can also type in here. 24 should be good, maybe? No, let's do 30. Okay, so. All fun and games. You've seen me do this. Jeez, that's not quite enough subdivisions. Oh, Lord. Okay, so. Oh, that was a bit too much. Okay. Alright, so, there we go. So, we have that. And now, what we can do is Shift A. I don't quite remember where to add it in from. Shift, add. I don't remember. I will find it. Maybe. Empty. Oh, Lord. I don't remember how to... Are you it? I'm not sure. I don't think you are. Oh, Lord. Alright, I'll have to show this a different way. Okay. Okay. Let's go here. Oh my god. Woo! If only this was easy. Okay, here we go. I think we have something like this here. So, curtains. Here we go. Hooks. So, this is a hook. Right. Okay. So you changed. Interesting. So, all right. So this is a hook. Really quick. So man, new, general, don't save. Okay. So, Shift A, plane, this way. Control to snap it to grid. Go to this perspective. Scale up. Subdivide it a lot. 31. Okay. Command 1. Shade auto smooth. Max value. Shift A. Empty. Plane axis. Go here. Go here. Select these. Or whatever you're trying to do. Go here. Create a new vertex group. Assign it. Make sure you have everything you want. Let's see. Jesus Christ. Ah! You don't need a hook, but... Lord, oh Lord, I think they changed how this is done. Or I don't remember it properly. Great. Not fun. We can still try to do this. Okay, let's see. Pin group. So we've pinned a group! And now, by having that pin grouped, those vertices won't be affected by the cloth, basically. But you can still go in and mesh, cube, collision, run it. And basically everything but that is affected. So you can basically hang stuff from it. I don't remember how to do the hooks, but that's how you do that. Ugh, what the hell? It's so fun. You can just shove that out of the way. Okay. That's how you do that. Okay. Don't save. Alright. Now, we're going to go back to the tutorial. Back to this. And we're going to delete that, which removes the animation. And we're going to talk about my least favorite thing to do at first, which was painting. So first, if it shows up pink, that means you need a texture. So you go down here, create a new texture. You can't immediately go to painting. You need to go here, image texture, and choose an image or create a new one. And since we made this from a circle, you'll see that everything is painted at once, which is likely not what you want. So you have to do a UV unwrap. For me, I don't mess with this too much. I simply do this. And now I can paint it how I want to. So if you missed it, select everything with A, press U. The letter for this is U, so press U, Smart UV Project, change the angle to how you want it, and press Unwrap, which will give you this result. While we're at it, real quick, remesh, fix poles, Command R. And now we do it again for that. And now I can paint it how I want to. If I want, I can paint bucket it, which basically, if you do it here, it paints everything, but if you do it just on the mesh, it'll paint it how you want. So now we can basically give this character an outfit and not have it be naked. You do have to paint it from all sides though. So, and you can do symmetry on this, but that's how you do UV editing. All I know for stroke is you can stabilize it, you can change the fall off to be more or less faded at the edges. My other favorite to do is project from view, and then project from view bounds, which is another way to paint. So if we undo that real quick. Another thing you could do is have this and this, select them both at the same time, go to UV editing, press A to select everything for both of them, then press Smart UV Project, unwrap, hold on, apply scale, UV editing, Command A, U, unwrap, okay, so, and now with one texture, oh lord, now with one texture, let's go material 1, now with one texture, we are basically painting two things at the same time, which is pretty cool. So they share the same texture, so if you were to import them somewhere, they would have the same texture file, though if you go stupidly big using everything for one thing, you might lose a lot of detail. And now I'm going to talk about decimate, so I'm going to duplicate this. As you might notice in this corner, there are a lot of triangles in this object. I'll use one that's more higher density. What's taking up the bulk of things here? Okay. It's you. You're taking up the bulk of things here. You're the uncut one. Okay. So, we go here. And then we can go here. There are two ways to unmess up a mesh, which is... Let's see. There are a few ways to clean up a mesh. One of them is unsubdivide, which is right here, where you basically remove parts of a mesh, though it can mess with the shape a lot, but it does make the triangles go down, which is useful for optimization. Another way is merge. Another way is merge by distance, which basically merges everything that's close to each other. However, it's less convenient. As you can see, it gets very wild very quickly. And then you can do clean up decimate geometry, which is also used as a modifier, where you essentially clean up the geometry by optimizingly removing vertices. So you can see how much that went down. It went from 44,000 to 13,000. We can also press Command F to do tries to quads to try and clean that up a little bit. But yeah, those are different ways of cleaning up a mesh, as well as just straight up remeshing it. I believe that's everything I know. I hope you enjoyed.